it's the 25th anniversary just passed for Ironman, and there was a interview with Ghostface from 𝗀𝗡𝗙, and I read through the whole article. Dope interview, but I was kind of shocked to hear Ghost talk about how certain things were questionable about this project. He talked about where his head was, and he was a diabetic back then, is what he said. He lost one of his friends, and went to jail. Like, the 90s were tough on him, and he's like, that's why you got records like All That I Got, and some of those joints on there sounded the way they sounded. But to me, that album is such a great album. It's kind of weird to hear him say that, it's not one of his favorites. Like, he kept pumping up Supreme in the article. Like, even the interviewer was like, it almost was like he didn't even really want to talk about Iron Man. Like, everything was more about Supreme Clientele, and even part 2 that's about to come out. But some of the things that jumped out to me that he said was RZA came to him with the beats first, and he started to pick them before everybody else, like the blaxploitation type joints. He started having RZA set him to the side early before everybody else got to him. He was going to go between the name Supreme Clientele and I think Iron Man for the first album. He was going to decide which one was which, but I guess Ray and RZA helped him decide to go with Iron Man. But iconic album, we already know that, but it's just weird to hear him say, he made such a great album in just a weird state. Like, for all of us though, how did that album impact you, like, when you first heard it? And are you even shocked about what Ghost said about the way he felt? Like, Jay Moore, I'll come to you first. Like, what are your thoughts about him being so nonchalant about Iron Man?
I'm not shocked at all, because a lot of times the relationship that we as consumers have with art is completely different than the way artists have a perception of their own art. You could be going through the craziest time in your life, and I've heard Redman say similar things about there is a dark side. Yeah. I heard Joe Budden talk about, like, when he was making something, as opposed to when it came out and everybody else heard it, like, I'm in a different place now. I almost don't want to perform these songs anymore. Mood music. Because it puts me into that dark place where I created this particular art, and so when we hear it, like, I think about, I can say exactly where I was, and I had a couple of older homies in college. Shout out to SIU Carbondale Salukis, who had he had a hookup at Dr. Wax in Chicago, so he was getting the singles. So we had already been banging 𝗀𝗙 and Daytona 500 early, because that was the A and the B side. Yeah. So we couldn't wait for the whole album, and so we wound up getting that. I remember it because a lot of people don't talk about this anniversary just because it's a different. It wasn't as successful. Movement wasn't the same, but OGC's The Storm came out the same day. So I remember
Original Gun Clap.
Exactly. So shout out to 𝗏𝗏 and Duck Down and that whole movement. But when we remember getting both those albums the same day with my man Creighton, and we drove back to St. Louis because it was like we had a weird like Halloween break, because at one point they was tearing up the town during Halloween, so they just said, "Oh, we're gonna send all you kids home." And so I remember the ride, listening to both of these albums and just being blown away by both. But Ghostface, like, when I always say, there's a hole in your soul somewhere if you hear All That I Got Is You, talk to him, and there's something that doesn't make you feel some type of way, even if you can't relate to exactly what's going on in that song. Just the emotion of it. If you know the sample by the Jackson 5 and the way they flipped that, and the fact that Mary J. Blige was on the album, but like label politics, she couldn't be in the video. I remember all
video
these
was
things.
Classic.
So you're just talking about how you feel about a particular piece of art. A lot of times we don't think about how the artist feels hearing these songs that come from a place of struggle and despair and sometimes depression. And that's what that was the driving force behind these things. You know, sometimes some of the best art does not come from a good place. Like if anybody's seen the Mary J. Blige documentary,
yeah,
you know,
I saw it.
A lot of her albums,
a lot of her stuff does not come from a place of happiness or I was doing this at this time. It comes from a real place of despair and depression. And like, you know, for these songs that we think are hits and might have got us through a certain time in our life, look, that artist may not want to hear that song again because it reminds them of exactly where they were in their life.
What it is too was therapeutic for a lot of them to get that out and give it to you.
Right.
It's almost like you were saying, they're in a dark place and they don't want to revisit it, but they had to get that out in order to move on.
Mm-hmm.
But it was a cultural iconic piece, so people hold on to it, and people have different experiences with that body of work than the actual creator of it.
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of like I don't know about y'all, but it's weird for me to even go back and listen to the show and hear myself talk. And it's not that I'm weird or weird about it, or I mean, this is a therapy session for me too in our case, but it's not anything dark. I'm just weird about hearing myself, you know. So I can kind of understand where he's coming from, especially considering all the things that he was going through at that point in time in his life.
Lone, I'd be curious to hear what you say about this as well, because you have put out multiple projects, and I know your writing process and how you go about music. Like, what do you think about him, you know, saying these certain things about such a classic album? Because I know you can relate.
There's lots of music and stuff from the past. Pretty much whenever I finish a project, I get tired of it.
Because you've listened to it over and over again.
Yeah, I mean, like, even when people were like praising Frozen Liquor when it came out, it was just kind of like, I listen to it, I just hear mistakes a lot of times, or I just hear, it's just like, I wish I did said this differently.
Because you're listening to it from an artist's point of view.
Yeah, you know.
No, I wanted to know how you felt about it, because I know
it's not surprising. Like,
okay.
It's not surprising to me that Ghost is, to me, Supreme Clientele is. I know this is maybe not like a popular conversation necessarily, but I feel like or a statement, but I feel like Supreme Clientele is way better than Iron Man.
Way.
Too.
So Iron Man's good, but it's not the same in my opinion.
No.
I mean, Ghost seems to, from what I read, like, he seems to champion it. Like, loves it, and didn't want to talk about Iron Man that much. But Iron Man to me is such an iconic record. It's a little weird to hear him be, I guess, a little nonchalant about it. You know what I mean? But
yeah,
I respect it, because from an artist standpoint, you never know what somebody's going through, to Jay's point and Cherry's point, when they're putting the record out. So, all right, man. I'm either way. I went back and listened to it just off nostalgia.
Mm-hmm.
I know they had a 25th anniversary version, but I don't know what was different. Maybe one remix at the end,
or
not
singles, instrumentals.
That's what they're
was
doing
it
for a lot of
instrumentals?
these.
Yeah, I know, like when the AT Aliens 25 year.
They all the instrumentals.
Yeah.
You know.
Oh, okay.
You know, there's a lot of stuff that, especially when you think about the 90s, remember when everybody used to buy, you know, CD singles or singles that might have
singles.
Yeah. And there were remixes and things on there that, like, honestly have been lost to time.
They actually had the acapellas and the instrumental joints on there.
You know, when you think about you know, the version of this is really taking it another place, the Bratz Give It To You. The version that we all remember from the video, what was played on the radio, that's not the album version.
Right.
You know,
I like that version though. That's my favorite version, the video version.
Yeah, but you know what? That's not available on streaming. Like, when you hear the Give It, like, they would go and refine things, and then put them out and wouldn't call them a remix. Like, it was the same thing with like 𝗏𝗏, because I was a fan of 𝗏𝗏, and there's
Polka
a song
Dots.
called,
𝗏𝗏 had
called One of the Big Boys, but the version on the album is different than the one that's in the video. So, like, it's just kind of crazy how, like, a lot of these things have been lost to time, if you will.
Yeah.
Especially in a streaming era. Like, if they don't put it out for streaming, or that paperwork has not been signed.
We just talked about, was it last week where we mentioned records being grayed out on the streaming services. Was that last
there's
week?
even albums that you can't even find on. Like I was listening to "Murder Was a Case" today.
Oh,
you have to listen to it in a YouTube playlist though, because you can't find it anywhere.
Yeah, it's not
unless
available.
you have the original CD yourself.
It's not.
But you can't stream it.
Is there a story behind that, or am I asleep? I
Once
can't
again,
remember.
it's probably a lot of the legal. So soundtracks are hard because the thing is, when all the artists are not on the record label that soundtrack puts out, like you have to get a lot of this stuff signed off on again. And like if the majority of the people who are on, like I don't think the Jason's Lyrics soundtrack is on streaming.
You can't even buy like
money. You can't even buy these songs digitally.
Yeah, like even the Boys in the Hood soundtrack, you can't buy. Not the Boys in the Hood soundtrack. The Higher Learning soundtrack. You can't buy Raphael Sadiq's song.
You can't buy. You can't buy that.
I didn't know that.
You can't stream it. Like, and there's no, I don't know what the legalese is for that, but there's just certain things that are not available.
Excuse me, is the Boys in the Hood soundtrack full on there?
The Boys in the Hood soundtrack is on there.
Yeah, that, I meant to say Higher
Learning.
Okay,
but
I didn't know if
the song that everybody would want off of the Higher Learning soundtrack
you cannot buy.
Is not available for streaming or available for purchase.
Yep,
you literally have to have the CD and rip it and have, or know somebody who knows how to rip off of.
It's funny that Terry said "Murder Was a Case" as a playlist, because sometimes I go through YouTube to look for certain albums that you can't find, and it's funny that somebody's actually took the time to write all the credits, the name, features, and everything, and make a dope playlist, and that saves me sometimes, because sometimes you want to go back and listen to certain records and certain joints and just can't find them. You think streaming would have, we always say streaming's got everything, but it really doesn't. Like,
or sometimes they're just like, it's crazy. Remember the group Another Bad Creation, how big they were? Like they sold like 2.5 million records. Yeah. And the only song available, at least through Tidal, as of when we're recording this, is Aisha. They have 2 whole albums, but they're not available for streaming.
Second album wasn't that great.
No, I mean nobody's missing that.
And they came out the box with that first one. I remember.
But the first one that had like you can't stream Playground.
Oh, man.
Or you can't stream their version of Jealous Girl.
Hey, Playground was fire when I was a kid. I remember that vividly.
My World on that album was fire.
Yeah, so they had like 4 or 5 singles off of that. Like I said, you got to understand Michael Bivins. For everybody who likes to talk about Puffy and
Michael Bivins is Puffy before Puffy.
You got to understand, he brought Another Bad Creation did like 2.5. Boys and Men's first one did like 9.5. Yeah. This is one dude who basically brought 11, to 12 million records in the door, and
salute to Michael Bivins, man. He is
then went on and got 702 and Subway. He did a lot. Considering he was also the member of 2 other groups. That's kind of crazy.
Yeah. Their story is
his second album unique. Kind of suffered the consequences of him doing all that other stuff.
ABC.
No.
The second belt, the Hootie Mac album.
Hootie Mac was trash.
We gonna go ahead and put that one. That's Nostradamus level.
Maybe 2 cuts on there.
This is something in your eyes.
The name Hootie Mac, I was like, what are we doing here?
It fit the time period though.
I did, but I was like, you coming off Poison, which had, come on, man, like y'all know the records that was on there. Yeah. So, I was cool on Hootie
Poison
Mac.
a flawless album?
Close.
That's a good suggestion.
Very close.
Lone loves Poison
because it's full of singles.
No, because they were able to do stadium tours.
Yeah. And they had a big pager on the stage,
and they only had one album. But that's how strong albums were. Like you could do it was them and Johnny Gill. Yeah. Keith Sweat was on that tour too, but like he missed the St. Louis day because he broke his foot or something. So I didn't care. Shout out to Keith Sweat, but I'm sorry. They were just one of my guys. So they did a whole full stadium tour with guys that only had one album. Yeah. That's how strong people listen to albums back in the day.
Hey, I think you might.
Poison had probably 10 remixes too. Remember they had the UK remix.
Oh yeah.
I have a bunch of those.
Do you?
Yeah.
I'm looking at it now. So you got Dope. Thought It Was Me. Let Me Know Something. Do Me. The Word to the Mother, the Crew joint. Poison. Ain't Nothing Changed. When Will I See You Smile? Another banger. I Do Need You, and then Poison extended to his point club version.
They did all those records in concert, and everybody
that might
knew
be
it.
a flawless album.
That might be.
I
close.
can't see anything on here that's.
Let me know. So I don't even remember.
No, I remember that song went.
See, I think all these might go, man.
I mean, from like I said, it might be a flawless album from my memory. I just don't remember how that particular song sounds.
We're gonna have Lone review that mug and
I'll do a TikTok review.
Yeah, I'd love to see you do a TikTok review of Poison by Belle Biv DeVoe.
I'll do a first time listening to it. Back.
Have you never listened to it?
I've heard singles.
Oh, okay.
You know what I mean?
Oh, they're going to love you in the comments for this one. Oh, man, I can't wait to read these.
If you've enjoyed this segment of the New Old Heads podcast, make sure you join our live show every Tuesday from 9 to 11 p.m. Eastern on twitch.tv/newoldheads. You can also catch playback of all of our shows on any podcast app and youtube.com/newoldheads network. And go to newoldheads.com/community to join our Discord.